What's up, guys? Welcome to the first exercise, the first listening comprehension exercise in the listening comprehension course. This video is going to be for super beginners, so the material is going to be fairly straightforward, and my explanations are going to be fairly in-depth around beginner level topics. So if that's where you are, then this is for you. So let's get started with the video. The video is about living alone. So this girl is going to talk about how it is to live alone.
Hablo con el espejo todos los días.
Okay, so I'm going to play it once, but anytime you need to replay it, just go back and replay the video. So, hablo con... And by the way, if you didn't understand something, sometimes you can replay it, and sometimes, like on YouTube, the video itself, you can slow it down. So you can open what you're listening to right now, this video, on YouTube, and then hit the settings, as you can see, like on this video, and the playback speed there. Anyways, she said, hablo con el espejo todos los días. So this means I speak. Hablo, because, and this is hablar in the present tense. So the verb hablar is conjugated as follows. Yo hablo, tú hablas, él o ella habla, nosotros hablamos, ellos hablan, ustedes hablan. Hablo con el espejo todos los días. I speak with so con el espejo. Todos means all, or todo means all the days, so every day. Todos los días. You could also say cada día, which means each day, aka every day. Cada means each. So what is espejo? Think about it. She's living alone. She says, I talk with something all the time. She talks with herself, but how does she talk with herself? What would you look into? What would you look into to have a conversation with yourself? The mirror. So espejo is mirror.
¿Y cómo has estado?
Okay, what did she say there? She said, ¿Cómo has estado? So, how have you been? I should have put, ¿Cómo has estado? I don't know why it's saying that. How have you been? So at this level, you might not know what this verb composition is, why this verb tense, why this as is there. So I'll just point you to the present perfect module. Go in and watch that module to understand why this means how have you been. After you watch that, it'll make sense. But this might be a little bit too advanced for you right now.
Yo, muy bien, muy bien.
Okay, there she said, yo muy bien, which means I, very well. In English, we would say me, very well. But in Spanish, you don't say me, you would say yo. So I, very well. Muy means very, and mucho means a lot. So oftentimes, beginners get those two confused. Like mucho, much, a lot.
Y hoy te digo por qué.
Okay, so she was saying she speaks in the mirror every day, and then she said, y hoy te digo por qué, which means hoy is the word for today. So, and then y is and. So, and today. Digo, this is the present tense of the verb decir. The conjugations are yo digo, tú dices, él or ella dice, nosotros decimos, ellos, ustedes dicen. So it's yo. Today, I tell you why. Now in English, we would say, I will tell you why, right? This would be the future tense. In Spanish, there's a lot of contexts where you use the present tense even though you're talking about the future. And it would be if you've already, in the context of the sentence, given away that it's like about something that's about to happen in the future. So like she said today, later on, today is the implication. That's why you can use the present tense. So I'm trying to think of another example on the fly here, but if you want to say like mañana, I'll take you. So mañana means tomorrow. I'll take you a un restaurante. Llevo is to take or to carry someone. So this te is so llevar is the verb to take or carry. Yo llevo is I take. Yo te llevo is I take you. So this literally means tomorrow I take you to a restaurant. So notice in English that doesn't make sense because we would say I will take you to a restaurant tomorrow. We're talking about the future tense. But in Spanish, you can use the present tense if you've given away in the sentence that you're talking about the future, if that makes sense. I don't want to confuse you, but it's just something that I noticed when I was a beginner, that in Spanish, they'll often use the future tense even though they're talking about something that will happen. Sorry, did I say future? They use the present tense even if they're talking about something that will happen in the future. Okay, so I don't want to go too in-depth on that, but there you go. That's this sentence.
Hola, soy Michelle y te doy la bienvenida a un nuevo video.
She said, hola, soy Michelle y te doy la bienvenida a un nuevo video. So this means, hi, I'm Michelle. Soy comes from the verb ser. Ser is the verb to be. So when you're introducing yourself, you say soy. You could also say my name is, which is me llamo. But she decided to go with I'm. I am Michelle. So ser is the verb to be. In English, I am. In Spanish, yo soy. You are. Tú eres. He, she is. Él, ella es. I'm not going to do all the conjugations right now. So, hi, I'm Michelle. And so doy is the verb dar, which means to give. So, yo doy, these are the conjugations. Tú das, él, ella da. By the way, usted is also here. Usted, remember, usted means you, formal, which is different than tú. Tú is what you use for like someone who you're more familiar with, or maybe somebody who's around your age. Usted is what you use when you're talking to someone who you want to show some respect to. So it could be a security guard at the mall. It could be your waiter if they're older than you. It could be whoever, your doctor, whatever. Usted, right? If you're a little bit more distant from them. So usted da. So he, she, or you, formal, gives. Nosotros damos. Ustedes, ellos dan. Ustedes is you guys or you all. So it's like you plural. And ellos is they. So it's regular conjugations except for the yo form. Yo doy. That's irregular. So it's just something to memorize. So I give, and who does she give? She gives to you. Te. Yo te doy. I give you la bienvenida. Think about this word if you don't know. Bien equals well. Venir means to come. So bienvenida is welcome. So I give you the welcome to a new video.
Hoy te cuento de mí.
There she says, hoy te cuento de mí. So this is the verb. And if you've watched enough of my videos, you know that I always talk about how important verbs are, and you can tell why. Like, you probably already know what. So hoy we already went over, that means today. Te cuento, so this is she does something to you. So something to you. And then de mí is about me. So what is this verb? This is where all the meaning comes from. So contar, which means to count or to tell. So in this case, based on the context, is she saying I'm going to count to you about me, or is she saying I'm going to tell you about me? She's saying I'm going to tell you about me. And again, we in English would say today I will tell you about me. Right? We would use the future tense. In Spanish, this is the present tense. So they just say, today I tell you about me. But really what it means is I will tell you about me. So hopefully that makes sense going back to what I was explaining from before.
De lo que sé desde que vivo sola.
So maybe you have to replay that, but what she said is de lo que sé desde que vivo sola. Okay, so this means, so de typically means about or of. Okay, so it depends on the context, but in this case she's saying, the previous sentence she said, today I will tell you about me, and now she's continuing that sentence. So she's saying de lo que sé, so I'll tell you about me, I'll tell you about what. Sé is the verb to know, sorry, saber is the verb to know. The conjugations are yo sé, so you can tell how important it is to know the different conjugations. Tú sabes, él, ella, usted sabe, he, she, you, formal, no, nosotros sabemos, we know, ustedes, ellos saben, you guys / they know. So, about what I know. Now this lo que is a little bit too much to explain in this. Eventually it'll make sense. I do have a module on it called the many uses of lo. The many uses of lo. So you can look up that module if you want to understand why this means what. Okay. So about what I know. Desde means since or from. Okay, I was saying de means about, of, it also sometimes means from. Okay, but desde means since or from. So about what I know, since, desde que is like since, sorry, desde on its own is from, desde que is since. And if you're wondering what's the difference between de and desde, off the top of my head, I would say like if I were to say I am from Serbia, I would say soy de Serbia. But if I wanted to say I came here from Serbia, I would say vine aquí, don't worry about this, vine desde Serbia. Why? To be honest, I don't know how to like put it in one concise sentence, but I'm thinking desde is more like a physical from. I mean, I came here since Serbia. I don't know. I don't know exactly how to explain it right now, but let's not focus on that too much. Not that important. If you use de or desde, you'll be understood. You might just sound a little bit off. So anyways, desde que means since. So since I live alone. Vivo is the verb vivir. To live. Yo vivo, tú vives. And remember, IR verbs have the E endings. So AR verbs, like hablar, they go yo hablo. Typically, all yo forms end with O. Not always, but a lot of the time. And then the rest of them end with A. A-S, A. So tú hablas, él habla, nosotros hablamos. So there's this A here because it's an AR verb. For IR verbs though, IR like vivir, it's yo vivo, again, ends with O. And then E, vive, nosotros. For nosotros, it's an I, so vivimos. It's not vivemos. It's vivimos. And then for ER verbs, like comer, it's a very similar pattern. It's all these E's, but this is an E here. So it would be nosotros comemos, not comimos. Nosotros comemos, él come, so ends with an E. Tú comes, yo como. Okay, this is the verb to eat. So you'll get used to those patterns. Don't worry if it seems like too much right now. Desde que, ever since I live alone would make more sense, because since in English could also mean because. Like, about what I know since I live alone could mean because I live alone, but she's saying ever since I've started living alone, basically.
Yo vivo en casa sola.
Yo vivo en casa sola. So there's a lot of words repeated there. I live at home alone. En means in. En means in or on. But when it's used with casa, it means at home. It doesn't usually mean at, but in this specific instance, when it's called with, when it's with casa, it means at home.
Yo no vivo en casa con mis papás o con mi hermana. Y ahora.
Yo no vivo en casa con mis papás o mi hermana. So I don't live at home with my parents, so mis papás. You could also say mis padres. Yes, padre means father, but padres means parents. You can kind of tell that English got, like, Spanish comes from Latin, and a lot of English words come from Latin. You can tell, like, this is close to padre, no? Padre. Anyways, I don't live at home with my parents or my sister. Hermana is sister. Hermano is brother.
Ahora sé 10 cosas de vivir sola.
Ahora sé 10 cosas de vivir sola. Now I know. Okay, so this is the word now. You may not have known that. Sé, remember this is the verb saber, to know. So yo sé is I know. Tú sabes is you know. So now I know 10 is 10. Cosas, very common word, means things. De vivir sola, about living alone.
Uno.
Notice how, depending on where you are in the modules, you might know that living, or something that I mentioned, is that anything ending with ing in Spanish ends with ndo. So like living is viviendo. So how come in this case, when she says cosas de vivir, I translate it as living? Like ing, shouldn't that be viviendo? And it's not, because sometimes in Spanish, the infinitive, the unconjugated form of the verb, translates to the ing form in English. Okay, so in Spanish, the infinitive sometimes translates to the ing form in English. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember the rule. I think it's if it follows a preposition. So a preposition is things like en, de, por, etc. There's a bunch of prepositions. So in this case, it's after preposition. So 10 things about living alone. So it's not a direct translation. You're not saying about to live, because vivir means to live. That wouldn't make sense. It's about living alone. Now I know 10 things about living alone.
No hay personas para hablar.
No hay personas para hablar. So this means hay is a very common word, which means there is. It also means there are. So whether it's singular or plural, you say hay. So in this case, it's plural, personas. So there are people. But she's saying no hay personas, so she's saying there are no people, because personas means people. Para hablar, to talk. To, you could say, but yeah, para hablar. There are no people to talk to.
He tenido un día horrible.
So she says, yo he tenido un día horrible. This again is the present perfect. Okay, so I think the module is called the perfect tenses, where I explain how those work. But what this means is I have had. So this comes from the verb tener. Tener is to have. Yo, I have had a horrible day. And notice we would say horrible day. In Spanish, they say día horrible, reverse order. You wouldn't be able to say yo he tenido un horrible día. Actually, it sounds a little off. So yeah. In terms of the order, you just get used to it. Like, don't try and remember which, because sometimes you could say like the same order as English. You could put the adjective, horrible is an adjective, before the noun in some cases. But in most cases, the adjective comes after the noun. But this is the Conversational Spanish Accelerator. We care about having conversations, not about being perfect. So even if you reverse the order, whatever, you'll still be understood. Especially as a beginner, it's not at the top of your priority list.
¿Y tú, Luis? Dos. ¿Te gusta mucho usar pijama?
Te gusta mucho usar pijama. So, you like, usar means to use. But when you're talking about clothes, it means to wear. And she's talking about a pajama, which is clothes. So she's saying you like to wear pajamas. Mucho. So a lot. Or pajamas, whatever. So mucho, remember, is a lot. And muy is very. Now, you might be like, why isn't it tu gustas? Why isn't that you like? And there's a whole module on that. I can't explain it quickly in this video. I wouldn't do it justice. It's called verbs like gustar. Sorry. So watch that video. Verbs like gustar. It'll explain it, because that's a very good question if you did catch that. If you didn't, yeah, you typically you is tu. It's not te. So I don't want to confuse you, but yes, watch that module.
No. No. 3. Eres un chef y vas a cocinar. Y si la comida...
Okay, let's just stick with this part.
Eres un chef y vas a cocinar.
Y vas a cocinar. Okay, so she's saying you are, remember eres is from the verb ser. Yo soy, tú eres, él es, etc. You are a chef, and vas comes from the verb ir, to go. Yo voy, I go. Also, I'm going. Tú vas, you go, or you're going. So, and this is the case for all present tense. Like if you wanted to say, I vivo, or let me think of a better example. If somebody asks you, like, what are you doing? You could say, hablo con ella. I speak with her. But in English, if you're on the phone with someone and someone asks what you're doing, you wouldn't say, I speak with her. You would say, I'm speaking with her. So oftentimes, the present tense also means this present progressive, which is the ing form. Now, that also does exist in Spanish. What happened here? Why is this highlighted? Hablo con ella. I'm speaking with her. Now, you could also say, estoy hablando con ella, which that's the literal direct translation of I am speaking with her. Estoy is I am. So remember, there's two I ams. There's yo soy is I am, and yo estoy, I am. They both mean I am, but they're used in different contexts. Look up the ser versus estar module if you want to understand that better. But hablo con ella, I'm speaking with her. Estoy hablando con ella, I'm speaking with her. So you can use the regular present tense to say like the present progressive, which is I'm speaking, the ing. So yo voy, tú vas. So vas a is you are going to. So tú vas a, you're going to cocinar. So a is to, cocinar is to cook. So it's the same structure in English and Spanish. This is the way to form, one of the ways to form the future tense in Spanish is to use the verb to go. And luckily for us, in English, it's the exact same thing. We do the exact same thing. Vas a cocinar. This is the verb to go. We also use the verb to go to form the future tense. You're going to cook. So you conjugate, in Spanish, you conjugate the going, the verb ir, for the subject. So in this case, it's tú. Tú vas a cocinar. If it was yo, I'm going to cook, it would be yo voy a cocinar. If it was he is going to cook, it would be él va. Why does he keep doing this? Él va a cocinar. So yeah, but she said vas a cocinar, and like you know in Spanish, you don't always have to have the subject there. It's redundant because the conjugation tells you who she's talking about. So, and you're a chef and you're going to cook.
Y si la comida no sabe bien, pues la tienes que comer.
There she says, y si la comida no sabe bien, pues la tienes que comer. Okay, so, and, if, so si, without an accent on the I means if, si with an accent on the I means yes. If the comida, so comer means to eat, so you might be able to imagine that comida means food. Si la comida doesn't taste good. So this is also the conjugation for like él sabe, he knows. But yeah, just like in English, sometimes you have two words which are spelled the same, but they have different meanings. That's the case here. So this is the verb to taste. So it doesn't taste good. And then pues means well. And then la tienes que comer. So tienes is to have. Sorry, tener is to have. Tienes is you have. Okay, so these are the conjugations. Yo tengo, I have. Tú tienes is you have. Él tiene is he has. Nosotros tenemos is we have. So don't worry about the la for now. Tienes que comer. What does this mean? So you have que. What is that doing there? So this is the again, it's very similar to English, how we use the verb to have to indicate necessity. It doesn't really make sense because to have means to possess, right? Like to have something. So why do we say like I have to go to work? We're not talking about possession here. We're basically saying I need to go to work. Why is need and the verb have synonymous in that case? Who knows? But it's the same thing in Spanish, luckily for us, so we don't have to think much. They use the verb to have to indicate necessity as well. So you have, tienes, and the way they form that, so we say have to, they say tener que. So I have to is yo tengo que. Right, if I want to say I have to go to work, yo tengo que ir, that's to go, al trabajo, to work. So notice, just like in English, I have to go. The to go is the infinitive, to go. It's not conjugated, right? To go, the infinitive form of the verb. It's the same thing in Spanish, ir, the infinitive form of the verb. So you don't have to think about conjugations after the tengo. You have to go to work. Tú tienes que ir al trabajo. So notice unconjugated, to go. So you have to, comer is eat. So if the food doesn't taste good, well, you have to eat. And the la is it. That's a concept that's too in-depth for me to explain right here. So just look up the module on direct and indirect object pronouns. I think I titled it me, te, le, lo, la, etc. So look up that module. That'll help you understand why that's the case. That looks pretty good, to be honest.
Hola, quisiera pedir una pizza. Vas.
Okay, quisiera pedir una pizza. Quisiera, this is too advanced right now. This comes from the verb querer, which means to want. But the verb tense, this is the subjunctive, so I won't go into it. But basically she's saying, I want to order a pizza. Pedir, yes, in this case it means to order, but in general, it also means to ask for. So to ask for something or to order it is the same thing. So you could also say to request.
A limpiar. Tú vas a limpiar. Tú tienes que limpiar la casa.
Okay, vas a limpiar. Tú tienes que limpiar la casa. So you're going to clean. You have to clean the house. I think we already went over. So limpiar is the only new verb there, only new word there, which means to clean. Everything else we already went over. Vas a is going to. Sorry. And then tienes que is you have to. So we've already gone over this concept, so I'm not going to go over them again.
Tienes que barrer.
Tienes que barrer, which means you have to sweep. Barrer is the verb to sweep. Not a very common verb, so don't worry about memorizing it, but there it is.
Y tienes que sacar la basura.
Okay. Y tienes que sacar la basura. You have to. Sacar is the verb to take out. Sacar. So you have to take out. La basura is garbage. Okay? Not much to explain there. Just new vocabulary.
¿Quién hizo
Nice.
esto?
Nice effects.
¿Quién hizo esto?
¿Quién hizo esto? ¿Quién is the word who. Hizo comes from the verb hacer, to do, or to make, depending on the context. In the present tense, the conjugations are yo hago, tú haces, él hace, nosotros hacemos, ustedes, ellos hacen. So, this isn't the present tense. So, you may be aware, this actually is the past tense. And there's two past tenses in Spanish. This is specifically the preterite. If you want to understand that, go into my modules on the preterite tense and the imperfect tense. You'll learn about the whole past tense in Spanish. But basically she's saying who did, and then esto means this. Esto means this. Just like with most things in Spanish, there's masculine and feminine. Sorry. Gonna have to sneeze. Eso means that, or esa. So who did this?
¿Yo?
Me?
Bueno.
Bueno. It's like, okay.
A lavar.
A lavar. That's basically saying, so lavar means to wash. A lavar is like saying, like, it's time to wash. I mean, literally it means to wash. The a is to, like to, sorry, the word to in English. A is a preposition, which means to. So if you were to literally translate this, it would be to, and then lavar is to wash. A is to, lavar is to wash. But basically what it means is like, it's time to wash. A lavar. So in general, a plus a verb infinitive is like, it's time to whatever the verb is. A ver is the verb to see. It is a very common way to say let's see. A ver. So you could argue that like lavar is let's wash. So let's or it's time to, they mean the same thing.
5. Eres un superhéroe.
You are a superhero.
Si hay una araña, tú tienes que atraparla.
Si hay una araña, tú tienes que atraparla. If, remember I is there is, a spider, so that's a vocabulary word that you probably didn't know, you have to trap it.
Oh, si hay un fantasma, tú tienes que asustarlos.
Or, if there's a ghost, fantasma means ghost, you have to asustar is to scare. So you have to scare. Los is you have to scare them. And again, that'll make sense when you watch that whole me, te, le, etc. module.
Seis. Puedes dormir. Puedes dormir hasta tarde viendo la televisión.
So she said, so puedes comes from the verb poder, to be able to. So yo puedo, I can, tú puedes, you can, etc. So she's saying you can. You can what? Dormir. Dormir is to sleep. So 2 verbs in a row. The second one is in the infinitive. You've noticed that so far with like vas a comer, you're going to eat. First verb conjugated, second verb infinitive. Tienes que comer, you have to eat. First verb conjugated, second verb infinitive. And it's the same thing in English. First verb conjugated, first verb conjugated, even though in English we barely have conjugations. In Spanish, like every subject, I, you, he, she has its own conjugation. In English, not really. So that kind of makes English easier to learn. But that's not the case for us people learning Spanish. But yes, and the second verb is in the infinitive. So again, that's an overlap with Spanish, which makes it easier to remember. So you can sleep, and then she says you can sleep. Hasta means until. And tarde means late. Okay, tardy, you probably heard, means late in English, so that's how to remember that. You can sleep until late. Viendo comes from the verb ver, to see. Okay, or in the case of watching a show, to watch, or watching the TV. So this is the NDO form. So viendo equals watching, seeing or watching. NDO, ing. And going back to before where we had the we had the NDO, but it wasn't ing. That's because it was after a preposition. I don't want to confuse you, so I'm not going to go in depth, but you can scroll back to if you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, then who cares? Just ignore it. So watching television. You can sleep until late watching television.
Siete. Escuchas música todos los días.
Escuchas música todos los días. You listen to music every day. Escuchar is the verb to listen. To listen to.
Pones música en los días. Pones música en la tarde o en la noche.
Pones música en la tarde o en la noche. So poner is the verb to put. So you could say like you put music, but really in English we would say you play music. So poner, when it's talking about music, pon la música means play the music, not put the music. It means play it. So you don't say juegas la música. Jugar is to play. You don't say that. Pones. La tarde. So we just went over the word tarde means late, but it also means afternoon. Tarde is afternoon. Mañana is morning. But to confuse you, it also means tomorrow. So how do you say tomorrow morning? You say mañana por la mañana. I know, it's weird. So you play music in the afternoon or at night.
Alto.
Alto means high. Think about altitude. So that's where the word alto comes from. So high. And she's talking about music. So she's basically saying at a high volume. Okay. Sorry, there was a bug I had to homicide. Okay, let's continue.
8. Cuando salgas de casa, vas a pensar.
Cuando salgas de casa, vas a pensar. So this is when, cuando, when. This is the verb salir. And this conjugation is the subjunctive. I'm not going to go into the subjunctive right now. It'll confuse you. But it means when you leave. So salir is to go out or to leave. So when you leave home, basically when you leave your home, you are going to think. Pensar means to think. Pensar, to think. So notice how like almost all the words that you like wouldn't be familiar with are verbs. So that's why learning the verbs is so important. So you are going to think. And what are you going to think? Let's see.
La plancha.
Clothing iron.
9. ¿Extrañas vivir con tus papás o con tus hermanos?
¿Extrañas vivir con tus papás o tus hermanos? So extrañar is the verb to miss. So you miss living with your parents or your siblings. Hermanos is siblings. So notice in Spanish, padre is father, but it also, if you make it plural, it means parents. And hermano is brother, but if you make it plural, it means siblings. So the masculine thing made plural is like siblings, parents, etc. Primo is cousin. Primos is cousins, even if prima is female cousin. Unless all of your cousins are females, then you'd say primas. Anyways, let's move on.
Mamá, te extraño.
Te extraño. Oops. How do I get rid of this? Okay, maybe that's a sign. We're almost done. I think you're probably overwhelmed by this point. So we'll close off the video there. Hopefully you learned a lot. And yeah, there's going to be a lot more listening comprehension exercises for you to go through. But just keep practicing. Go through the modules I mentioned in this video if you haven't already. Review them. Do the exercises to really drill the concepts in. And yeah, keep making progress. So I'll see you in the next video. Take care.